The 2022 Hyundai Tucson gets redesigned, and it has gotten better in almost every way. It has a new striking exterior style, it has a new and beautiful interior design, and general performance has improved. And for 2022, there's also a new hybrid and plug-in hybrid powertrains. And for this review, I'll be talking about the hybrid powertrain, but a lot of what I say is also going to apply to the rest of the Tucson lineup. Now, before I go on, let's take this time. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button because it helps this channel out immensely. Basically, it keeps me sitting in the passenger side of cars and talking to you about my likes and dislikes about all of these different cars. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started with this review. And I want to start with the exterior first because the 2022 Hyundai Tucson looks totally different. I personally own a 2017 Hyundai Tucson, and I've always thought of it as a great looking crossover. And the subsequent redesigns have been generally good too, albeit minor. However, with the new 2022 design, the body has taken on a completely new form. This one has Hyundai's new parametric dynamics design principle, and it's something that you'll find in their new Hyundai Elantra as well. And if you want to see that review, please click the link up here. But just like in that compact sedan, the new design theme is all about having three lines meeting at a point. The front bumper of the Tucson is probably the best part of this new design. The old hexagonal grille is gone. Now the lights and the grille share the same look, so it looks like there's just one giant grille. But once you turn the car on, the look changes dramatically. The LED daytime running lights make a triangular pattern that looks unlike anything else on the road right now, and I think this could be a bold new signature look for Hyundai. The upcoming Hyundai Santa Cruz is also going to look similar, and I think Hyundai should eventually redesign the rest of their lineup so it shares the same design principle. As for the headlights, they're actually sitting down here and just in line with the top of the tires. This is also similar to the Santa Fe and Palisade, where the main headlight sits low, almost like where the fog lights would normally be on a car. These are some of the nice visual design tricks that make these new Hyundai vehicles look very unique and stand out. Moving to the side, you can immediately identify that this is a Tucson rather than a CR-V or a RAV4 or some other compact crossover. You can tell because this is the one with all the crazy chiseled lines going all over the place. Now this might be an acquired taste for some, but I am all for it. I think it looks so unique and really makes this crossover stand out. This being the limited model, it has the 19-inch wheels, which looks pretty good. You can find these same wheels on the SEL convenience trim. And along the bottom of the car, there's just the right amount of black cladding to make it look like it can handle some off-road duty. And if you compare this new generation Tucson versus the previous one, you might notice that the wheelbase has also grown by almost 3.5 inches. And you guessed it, that does wonders to the second row legroom and also the cargo capacity. As for the back end, here's where the design falls apart for me. That jewel-like design theme from the front doesn't translate too well for the rear end. It's almost like Hyundai had a design team working on the front three-quarters of the car and hired a totally different design team to finish out the back end. The sawtooth taillight design is neat, but doesn't seem to fit well with how awesome the front and the sides look. I also am not a fan of the aluminum finish trim on the back. I believe they use this trim to establish a more coupe-like profile, but it is sticking out like a sore thumb. Other weird things that stick out is this badge that sits on the rear windshield, and I'm also not a fan of the pattern of the rear bumper that reminds me that whoever designed this part didn't get the make everything look like jewels memo. But these are just my opinions, so feel free to tell me that I'm wrong in the comments below. Moving inside, Hyundai has been busy redesigning the interior too, and I'm mostly a fan of it. Looking at the center console, you find this large flat panel. There's a 10.25-inch infotainment screen that looks pretty good and works in a snappy way. There's also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, for this limited trim, you still have a wired-only option. The lower-end trims have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. This is the same issue that I've been running into with other Hyundai models and their higher-end trims. Seems like they're keeping wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto out of the higher end trims. And right below the screen, you find some touch sensitive panels for the HVAC controls and also the stereo controls. I don't mind these normally. I still prefer a physical volume dial to control the music, but it's not a big deal for me. It's not a deal breaker because the buttons on the steering wheel are much easier to use. One downside to this big panel is that it's finished in piano black, so after a while, you're gonna see a lot of fingerprints and it's gonna look kind of nasty. One quick solution is, of course, just keep a microfiber cloth handy and just wipe this down every once in a while. Right below this panel, you'll find a couple of different plugs and also a wireless charger. And there's also a set of buttons for both your heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, hill descent control, parking sensors, and your 360-degree camera views. Moving further back, you'll find the drive mode dial, which allows you to go into eco, sport, smart, and snow driving modes. And to the left, since all hybrid models are inherently all-wheel drive, you're going to find the center locking differential button. And behind that, you'll have the transmission buttons. I personally like the transmission button over the gear lever because I think it helps open up the space more and it also looks a bit more luxurious. Looking ahead, there's another 10.25-inch screen and it's used for the fully digital instrument cluster. It provides a more modern tablet look as opposed to a traditional hooded instrument gauge cluster that's been around since forever. The quality of the screen is also very nice and I like how the animations are buttery smooth, unlike the earlier iterations of these screens. And since this crossover is equipped with a 360-degree camera view, you can get a live feed of the side view cameras whenever you turn on your blinkers. As for the second row, there's 3 additional inches of legroom compared to the previous generation. So there's plenty of room here for tall people, and just like my 2017 Hyundai Tucson, the backrest can also be reclined for more comfort. Some extra nice to haves in the second row are the outboard heated seats, the USB plugs for convenience, and also the nice view from this panoramic sunroof. As for cargo space, there's a significant difference back here over the previous generation. With the second row in the upright position, you can now fit 38.7 cubic feet of space. That's up from 31 cubic feet of space from the previous generation Tucson. And with the second row folded down, there's a giant 80.3 cubic feet, up from 61.9 cubic feet of space. I also like how there's extra compartments like the removable floor and extra pockets on the side, and the ability to fold down the second row from behind the car is also a nice feature. Other small interior features I like about the Tucson is the way the vents are neatly integrated into the trim pieces. There's also some extra storage spots, albeit small, like the areas right beside the transmission tunnel. I also like the shape of the steering wheel. This is one of my favorite steering wheels purely because of this crossbar. It's the perfect place to rest your hand on, and it's contoured nicely, making driving a pretty relaxing thing. And speaking of driving, what is it like to drive the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid? This is a really good crossover, and it's not just because of the list of features that you get in here, but the ride quality is superb. It's comfortable and quiet, and combine that with the build construction and material selection, it never felt like I was driving something cheap. And I'm not saying that the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid is cheap because this limited trim starts at over $37,000. That's a considerable chunk of change. You can save a lot more money if you go with the blue trim because that starts at over $29,000. But the ride quality and how it drives, it definitely punches above its weight. I think there's going to be a lot of more expensive crossovers that's going to be very jealous with how this Tucson Hybrid drives. There's also some really impressive driver assistance technologies going on in here. The blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alerts are nice extras. And like I mentioned before, the live feed popping up on the instrument cluster is awesome. There's also sensors behind that front badge, and there's a camera behind this rear view mirror that will sense a lot of what's going on in front of you. So there's radar adaptive cruise control, which is easily activated with the single push of a button. There's also lane following assist, which is also easily accessed via this button over here. And that system works generally okay as long as the lane markers are clear. It makes the car able to follow the lanes on a highway pretty well. In the power department, this is a hybrid, so there's a 1.6 liter turbocharged engine and a 44.2 kilowatt electric motor, giving it a net system 226 horsepower. I haven't driven any of the new gas-only Tucsons yet, so I can't quite make a comparison between the new ones, but this is much faster than my 2017 Hyundai Tucson because that one only has the 1.6 liter turbo engine. So straight line performance is really good, and the pickup in this thing is awesome. As far as handling, it's on par with other crossovers of the size, so it'll be fine for commuting purposes, but I wouldn't look forward driving this in my favorite back road. The hybrid performance is pretty good. It's rated at 38 combined miles per gallon, which is also on par with other brands for compact hybrid crossovers. Now, the only downside I have regarding the driving experience of the Tucson is when I put it into sport mode. Now, the whole premise of sport mode is that it's supposed to make the car more fun to drive, and to an extent, it certainly does with this Tucson hybrid. But two things happen when I turn this into sport mode is that the first one, the throttle response becomes more sharp, which is a great thing. You always want that with sport mode. And the second thing is that it seems like the regen braking becomes more aggressive. Now, with hybrid cars, there's always some form of regenerative braking. That's when you lift off the throttle, or if you're going downhill, it will turn that potential energy, convert it into electrical energy and stuffed in the battery so it can be used at a later time. That's how we get fantastic mileage out of hybrid models. But the problem here between the sharper throttle response and also the more aggressive regen braking is that the driving experience is a lot less smooth, and sometimes you feel like these micro jitters between two things happening. So I'd just like to leave it in smart mode because that seems to be the smartest mode. So you can be in sport mode or in eco or in normal, or when you have to, it can go into snow mode. But overall, do I recommend the Hyundai Tucson Hybrid? This is an easy recommendation because this is a great crossover and also a great hybrid crossover. I think Hyundai turned a good-looking crossover into a really unique and awesome-looking one. It might not be for everybody, but Hyundai really took a bold step here and created something that really stands out. I also love the interior design and all of the tech that's in it. The lack of wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto in the limited trim is a misstep, I think, but not enough to be a deal breaker for me, as there are some aftermarket solutions to get wireless Apple CarPlay. And finally, I think this Tucson has really great on-road manners, and it rides like something that is much more expensive than the price suggests. Well, there you have it. That's my review of the 2021 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. If you've learned something, please consider hitting that like button. And again, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe and that notification bell so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. I'll wrap it up right there. My name is Hanson. This has been the 2021 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid, and I'll see you next time.